Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us again here on Fearless Females. I love doing this podcast. I love talking to these amazing women. I love sharing their stories. I love hearing their stories. It's inspirational to me. It just makes me so happy. And if you enjoy listening to some of these stories and these women, if you wouldn't mind liking or following or rating, commenting, leave good comments on the Spotify or Apple podcast or wherever you're getting your podcast, that raises our ranks and helps more people be aware of the cool women out there. So today we're talking with Tara. And the part of the interview that really made a difference to me is at one point she says she was told that she was being too pushy. And it really struck me because this isn't her talking about someone openly telling her, hey, you're not good enough, you can't succeed. But it's something more subtle and more common for women in leadership, where early in her career, she was really ambitious. She was eager to grow. She was volunteering for everything and trying to advance. And someone told her, you don't need to be so ambitious. You don't need to be so pushy. And she took that inward and started questioning herself. She's like, am I too much? Am I pushing too hard? Am I making people uncomfortable? And this was early in her career. So instead of continuing to lean in, she said she actually kind of pulled back professionally. This is such an important conversation because so many high achieving women, we don't get told no directly. What we get told is, oh, you're too much. You're too ambitious. You're too bossy. You're too pushy. You know, those are all things that make us want to shrink and be smaller rather than lean into what makes us, too much. Too much might not be the right place for you to be. Like maybe you need to find a different place to be where they think you're too much is just perfect. But what I love about this section is that the story doesn't kind of get stuck here. Later in the episode, you hear how she rebuilt her confidence. She shows leadership and mentorship and experience. And she finally realized that her ambition wasn't the problem. It was one of the reasons that she succeeded. And it creates such a important thought and an important lesson for all of us, that idea of being too much, but realizing that your too much is just right. It's just perfect. And leaning into that strength rather than hiding. So let's get started with Tara. Good morning, Fearless Females. So today we are joined by Tara Beiser. She is the global head of marketing at Wipro, the SAP practice. And that is a really long title, but I didn't have to practice it. So I was so excited for myself. So Tara, we're so excited to have you today. I love our conversation before the podcast, and I'm really excited to hear your story.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and very excited to talk to you today.
So my first question is always the same, and it is, what is your favorite book?
Yes, absolutely. My favorite book it's a short book too. It's called The Motive by Patrick Lencioni. This book is really about the drivers, as in the motive, the motivators for people who choose to be in leadership, or if potentially that path of leadership chooses them. And it's a quick read, and I found that it's very interesting, filled with a lot of people insights, if you will, and it tells the story across a number of different situations in a variety of different industries. So I feel like it's very relatable for anyone who has tried to either be in leadership or that's kind of brought upon them, and feel like it's just a very compelling read.
I love that. I've read some of his other work, but I haven't read that one. And that sounds so interesting. I like the idea of like being thrust into leadership. Like, sometimes that does happen. Like sometimes we do not raise our hand and we're like, oh yeah, I want to lead for sure. We find ourselves in a position where we're like, oh, we better dang well get better at this soon, huh?
Exactly.
So I love that. I'll take a look at that one. And his are usually pretty interesting, engaging, and I love the idea that it's short. I can probably put that on my list and knock it out this week.
Yes, exactly. You easily can.
So tell me a little bit about your journey, Tara. Like, how did you get started? Did you always know what you wanted to be? Did you take a windy route, or were you like straight ahead? Like, tell me about you.
Absolutely, and appreciate the question. So, overall, I have been in marketing and communications for my entire career. But with that said, I did not know what my end goal was, or even when I was starting to go into school, what path that was going to really lead me. So I feel like my journey could be captured really by a series of either well informed accidents or just an evolution of a series of pivots. And I really group it as three throughout my journey overall. So, first is I know that you have listeners across, that might even still be in school and so forth. So, even as I started, I did not even start in marketing and communications when I was in college. I actually was thinking I was going to be a fashion buyer. And I think at that time that just sounded glamorous and exciting and to be on top of fashion trends and so forth. But once I was in school, I was joining a number of different organizations, and I always ended up being the person who was doing the communications or helping market the events, help organize those types of activities and be involved in that way. So it was one of my friends who pointed out that maybe I should kind of reconsider this. And I looked into it and I looked into like what kinds of roles that would eventually evolve for me. And that was really where I wanted to kind of evolve and drive my career, I thought at that time. But within that, I was really drawn to more creative graphic type roles. So at an agency, it might be like an art director. And so I started. So then that kind of then a first kind of pivot there of focusing then on the graphics and telling the story more visually. And that was where I kind of started my roles when I kicked off my career. But then I realized that I really wanted to, so I kind of grouped that all together though, is looking at that one big kind of move there. Then as I was telling those stories kind of visually, I realized that I wanted to understand the rationale and the business case, the strategy behind what we were doing. And this then brought me to the next pivot where I was then really interested in that business rationale. So I wanted to work more on the client facing or corporate side of the marketing roles so that I could then help to execute and deliver on that overall strategy. And but I was doing that in more of the agency world. And my next pivot then was to business marketing, where I overall focused on technology marketing for the most part. And that is where I have remained. And overall, so the last 15 plus years has been really centered in the technology marketing our solutions, our services in that space. And I really enjoy that because I think that it helps me stay on top of trends, also lends itself to be able to talk about really interesting client stories about their situations and their successes and the big picture outcomes that we've been able to drive. So that is really something that I've really enjoyed. So those are kind of my big three kind of accidental pivots, if you will.
So I loved that. That's a different journey, right? Fashion designer to
Well, certainly.
tech. But I loved what you said when you were saying, "Hey, I was joining clubs and I was doing all these things that really kind of revolved around communication, and I found out that that's where I was good at, and that's what I was really finding myself drawn to." I like the idea of being able to dabble in those areas because you're out there, because you're joining clubs, because you're working in those areas. I didn't hear you say, I went to their career development place and I took this little quiz and it told me, you said I was out there like practicing, trying things.
Exactly. Yes.
So I think that's a really underutilized way, I think, of figuring out what you're good at and what you're drawn to. And you also had a girlfriend or a couple of friends, your advisory council, your prototype of people who know you that like mentioned, hey, you might want to think of this. Maybe that's something that we don't see about ourselves, but other close people would.
Exactly, exactly. And that really meant the most to me. And it really was that aha moment early on. And who knows if someone if that person hadn't said anything, had I gone in that path or kept going. It's very interesting how that evolved for me, I have to say.
So, Tara, what is the best investment that you've made in yourself? If you look back, like along your journey and your path and everything, is there something that you can say, oh my gosh, I'm just so glad I did that? It meant the difference in my life.
So again, I do have three areas of this because as an investment, that's really about time and money. And in my journey, it's really been more around the leadership skills that I've been able to kind of move forward with and investing in myself in those different ways. So one, early on in my career, I was also consulting in addition to my day job. And that kept me thinking of just different approaches and different types of businesses. And I think that then really helped me evolve, with all of the kind of changes later on. So it wasn't marketing consulting, but I was helping other like small businesses in lots of different ways. So that was an investment really of my time because yes, maybe they might pay me a little bit, but it was more about my learning at that time. So it was really more of an investment of my own time to do that. Then second was both time and money when I joined what's called the Chief Network. Not sure if you've heard of this, but I funded my own membership. And this is a network of female executives. And I was really able to engage and learned a lot from a lot of great women that are part of that network. It was really interesting to hear their journeys as well. They have different sessions that you can listen to or be a part of if you're part of the network. They also have in-person events depending on where you're at. So that was an investment of both time and my money. And then right now is the third, I would say, that's been the most important as I just joined and took on the role of a board role for the marketing chair for what's called the DFW Alliance and Technology. And this is a volunteer effort. So it is an investment of my time. It's a great organization. And I'm really looking forward to the fact that it will continue to help me connect with other individuals, especially in this, where I'm at in the DFW area, and learn from other individuals, as well as being able to provide them the support from my expertise from marketing. So I really am looking forward to that, though it did just kick off. So, but that will be a big investment in my overall time.
I like that. I think that you're continuing to that story or that like narrative of being involved in different organizations and learning what you can about them that maybe informs better who you are in your role or gives you access to lots of different thoughts and ideas and ways of doing things. And leadership opportunities too, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Especially because this is I'm in the technology area, just learning other people's pain points, hearing how they've done different things, connecting, expanding the network within that, I think is going to be so helpful. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's but it is a big bite of your time and energy. It's hard to balance that, and I've had so many guests that say there is no such thing as balance, work-life balance, and I don't have any, so I just have to believe them. But do you worry about that, like taking too much time in one area, or how do you navigate that challenge?
I do. It's a great question. Yes, there really is no balance these days. So you just have to kind of come to terms with that. But you have to just understand and make sure really you have your boundaries for what you're doing. And of course, I have my full time role within Wipro. And within that, I need to ensure that I am doing everything within that role, as well as this is a commitment. I've made this commitment, so making sure that I can balance that, as well as from my own family and friends, and not go off the radar with them for 2 years or something like that. So I think it's about looking at kind of your time as much as you can, and just different kind of chunks of time, and making sure that if you're really going too much, like working 7 days a week across all of these efforts, that you're going to burn out and you're not going to help anyone. So just making sure that you set those boundaries of what's important and what other things that you're doing in your life.
I like that idea of like boundaries, not balance. Like you kind of put the boundaries in place to find the sweet spot in how you're allocating your time, because time is the only thing we can't get more of.
Very true. Exactly.
What is the worst advice someone gave you? Can you think of a time when you got some really bad advice, and did you take the advice or did you not take it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I would say that kind of early on in my career, I was always trying to learn, as well as take on a lot of other initiatives and so forth. And I really wanted to continue to grow my career. So what I would have to say is, what was maybe the worst for me was that someone told me that I did not need to be so ambitious. And I think that their intent was certainly good. I think that maybe they thought I'd get burnt out that too quickly, and that I'd regret putting myself into too much work, taking on too many things. But with this direction, I then started to kind of have a little bit of self-doubt. And I thought, well, maybe I'm being too pushy. And maybe that's aggravating people, or something to that effect. So I then started to kind of lean back in my career. And I think that if I really hadn't heard that and just continued on, that I might have just pushed myself, continued forward. Hopefully I wouldn't have burned out, but I think that maybe it might have caused some self-doubt at that time,
Mm-hmm.
that I then just didn't. I maybe could have done a little more and gotten propelled a little bit differently, had I not taken that into too much account.
Yeah, it is hard, and especially as women, a lot of times we do get that message like, "Don't be too much," like
Mhm.
you know, and, sometimes that's uniquely who we are. That's why we find the roles that we find, is because we bring a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of ourselves, a lot of our authenticity to those roles. Is there a way that you would have changed to maybe do things differently with those that you're leading now, or a way that you found to kind of lean in? Like, when did you start like leaning in again and taking ownership of that?
I think I really started to lean back in more when I went into the technology side of the marketing and was part of kind of bigger teams, and then also had the opportunity to just collaborate more and then see just different sets of how other individuals kind of taken also their marketing careers and so forth. I think that then when I reflected on it, it did motivate me to want to mentor or help coach my team members more so. So I really do take that kind of coaching, mentorship approach across my team to make sure that they're growing and that they're ready for their next big endeavor themselves, and to help motivate them
Yeah.
for whatever is the right fit as to let them grow.
Hmm. And so, and through the coaching or the leadership, like that's allowed you also to show up as yourself.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree.
Yeah, that I think that's something that we don't realize as we're giving back and we're doing it. It just feels sometimes like one more thing to do on your plate, one more hit of your time. But I think that's something that we don't realize is that we get just as much out of those coaching and mentorships and leadership opportunities. Is that a lot of times I do the same thing with my kids when I tell them what they should be doing. A lot of times I'm like, but Lorie, in my brain, I never say it out loud, so they don't know. But in my brain, I'm like, Lorie, are you doing the things you're encouraging them to do? Because if it's good advice for them, it's probably good advice for you. And I think that we maybe forget that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's easy to do. It's, as they say, easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I love that. I love that you took that experience and you kind of grew from it and you're helping others grow from it as well. I think that's neat. What about a do-over? If you look back kind of along your journey and your path, is there a time where you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could go back and do that again, and I would do it so differently because I know so much more now? Is there a time like that that you can think of?
Well, I would say, and it kind of really dives back to that last point, is that I wish I had sought purposely out a mentor myself. So I never did. I've had some supervisors, I had some bosses who did certainly help me along the way, and those that I kept in touch with, but never really sought out that mentorship. And so there's not like a big situation overall or mistake. I mean, I think we learn from different situations, but I think that had I really sought out a mentor, I think that that would have helped me just throughout my career. And that's also, I think, why I really want to help others, and I kind of put myself out there for others. Because still to this day, I now at this point, I'm like, well, I guess what's the point of having a mentor maybe on my end after 25 years experience and whatnot. I kind of say that joking aside, but yeah, I wish I would have really sought out a mentor. I've seen others that have really that's really served them very well, and I think that that could have helped me to at least talk through different situations throughout my career, and just maybe have more confidence in how I was tackling those.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Is that sometimes mentors may just go ahead and ratify what you're already doing. They're like, yep, that's a good idea. You should do that. And sometimes they'll tell you, they'll come at you and they'll be like, yeah, you need to rethink that maybe a little bit. At least good mentors do. But that sometimes all we need is to bounce an idea off of someone and have them say, yeah, I would go that direction too. That sounds right. So, and I wonder if the chief role that you said you invested in, that probably serves as a bit of a mentorship.
It did give me a lot of an opportunity to kind of collaborate across others, and we were mentoring each other, if you will, in a way. But so that at that time when I was doing that was probably really the closest to having that benefit, if you will.
How would you go about finding a mentor? Like, I've always wondered that. And I know that it's like on you, but like, do you just go up to people? I am so bad at going up to people and saying, please, can you help?
I know. So, and since I don't have one, but what I have seen is a few different individuals. Like, I mean, I think it's always great when if you find someone within your organization that has a leadership role that you're like, well, that might be where I want to kind of grow my career, or at least they have a different perspective, like within their business, and they have a lot of great experience to reference. So I think that if you have that kind of door opener from your organization and inquire and ask if they would spend some time and give you that opportunity, and try to package it of, I'm just looking for this in this time frame, maybe like once a month or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I think that could be great. I mean, I've also actually heard that if you're also someone who really is maybe outgoing, and you go to like networking events and you meet someone that you're just so engaged with, that has also, again, that kind of leadership role or something that where you think you might want to grow, following up with them, trying to keep in touch and seeing if they'd be willing to do that. I do think it's a bigger opportunity if you are able to do it, within your organization, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe start somewhere.
Those are some good ideas. And I think that the idea of taking you out for coffee or going out and, I found that so many women too are willing to listen and share ideas and share what helped them be successful.
Exactly. Absolutely.
If you could, Tara, if you could go back and high five yourself for a really great past financial decision, what would that be?
I would have to say that I purchased my first home, a townhome, when I was 24. And so when I got out of school, out of college, I just continued to really save, and I didn't want to be throwing money out as in rent, or I wanted to do that as for as short a time frame as possible. And I think that was a really great investment, and it helped me to make sure that I was really focused on my own budget, so that this was all I could spend in order to meet these goals, these financial goals, to save at that time. And then once I did purchase it, to then ensure that I was, of course, making my mortgage. So that I'm proud that I was able to do that. I know a lot of people are not able to. I think it also helped me that I was able to work through my kind of college years so that I did not have financial like aid, or I did not have to take out additional loans at that time and didn't have to pay those off. So I was very fortunate within that. It was a lot of hard work, but that I think really did just help pay off, and then kept me motivated in budgeting, till this day.
Yeah, that's cool. And it sounds like part of that too was not only making the good financial decisions, but making those good financial decisions that young, so that as you carried them over, in life. I find that really interesting. I joke that as soon as my kids get a job, I'll take them out to dinner and congratulate them and talk to them a really lot about setting up an investment account, until they just give up and say, Mom, whatever, that sounds like great, let's do that. And
Yes.
so they,
early.
yes. So at 15, 16 years old, when they get their first job, they are already learning the skill of putting money away into an investment account. And that I've watched it follow them through like college and young adulthood. And even when they don't have a whole lot, they are still putting money away, because that was something they learned really young. It sounds like that's kind of the same sort of thing, as you like learn that budgeting skill really young, and you carried that through, and it's been just a just a really great thing for you throughout your life.
Exactly. Absolutely. It was.
Yeah, that's so smart. That's such a good idea. So, what scared you the most, Tara, when you kind of started down this journey? Was there anything that you were like, oh, I'm terrified? And are you still today, or did you kind of grow with that?
Yeah, I think that, each time I made those pivots, that was always very scary. Making sure, was I going to be able to meet those new goals and, what that job entailed and so forth. So I think that that was very scary. And, anytime when you have like a big endeavor or a project and maybe leading a lot of other individuals, that make sure that is our approach on this the sound approach, making sure that you then have the buy-in from your key stakeholders so that you have that alignment and that support, so that you can all be accountable together. And then that also, that maybe then those of it individuals, if there become any barriers, that they can help you along the way. So I think that tackling some of those big things, just it can be daunting,
Hmm.
but ensuring that you try to also have then the right individuals, that you're looking out for those right leadership to guide you, and the right building up your team, so that as you take things on, that you can be fully confident that we've got this.
So, do you still, when you take on those new roles, is it still scary?
Oh, sure. I think it's still a little scary. I mean, even me stepping into the board position, that's a kind of volunteer initiative. I know that that's taking on some additional time, a lot more individuals to interface with, to engage with, making sure that I'm doing, what's needed for their overall goals, and learning all the odds and ends of their organization. So I think I try to just take things, one bit at a time, so that it
Mhm.
also is not so overwhelming. So making sure, okay, this, as we take something on, especially if it's something big, just looking at it in little increments or pieces sometimes, also to make sure that, you're not kicking off some big robust event and campaign, and with all of the ROI and metrics and so forth, without, it's all about all those stages, all those increments. So making sure that you can kind of break it apart, and that helps you to get to your end goal.
Yeah. I like that idea. It's like the how do you eat an elephant, like one bite at a time. Like looking at the yeah, looking at that huge overall big overwhelming picture, and I can imagine, as a young adult kind of coming out of college looking at, oh my gosh, can I even do this? Like I felt coming out of college like I wasn't trained for anything. Like I'm like, I don't know anything. What in the heck did I spend 4 years doing? But as you break it down into little pieces that are more manageable, you're like, well, I've done this before. I've done this little piece. I can do this. I can do a good job of this again. And I've done most of this second little piece. So maybe I can, find a few people that know how to do the rest of this, and I can do this again. And pretty soon you've got the building blocks built in those small, manageable. I like the way you look at that.
Well, great. Thank you.
So, did you face any unique challenges because you were a woman throughout your journey?
I mean, I think everyone faces just different challenges. I mean, especially I am in technology, and additionally, and certain points, I was also aligned to, within the technology, that we were targeting automotive or industrial, and engineering and so forth. So I would be at our team meetings, travel in for that, and 45 people in the room, and I was the only female. And it actually, there was a couple of times where I was like, okay, I know how to do this. They'd have the servers, and they'd be, if we went to a restaurant afterwards, and they'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, or lady and gentlemen. I'm just, Tara and gentlemen, just do that. Like, it's just me. It's okay. And I'd make like the joke of it and whatnot. But it happened enough times where I knew how to, just make that joke. It happened quite a bit. And I think sometimes it can be daunting to have the confidence to speak up, especially earlier when I was just younger in my career. But I guess especially now, I feel like, well, I've earned this seat at the table, and I then make sure make sure that I've been prepped for, what are the conversations going to be like within these meetings and so forth. It was really when it's like in a big in-person environment where I had to kind of think through that. But then on a day-to-day basis, I'm on video calls and with our leadership, and that can still often happen. So it's about having that confidence due to your own preparation. And I think that that's a good lesson for anyone, regardless of, male, female, in their career, to ensure that you're working towards the role you want to be, not even just where you're at. Making sure that you have that preparation and that you're providing value in each of those meetings or in everything that you can do, so that nobody can take that away from you and nobody can question it.
Oh, I love that. Being prepared and then finding that confidence. I've been reading or listening to different things that just talk about like that confidence. How do you build that confidence? And it sounds like you're talking about like you do it. You even though you might be a little bit scared, right? You prepare yourself well, and then you speak up in the meeting. You actually have to do it before you get the confidence that you're good at it.
Exactly. Yep.
So that's interesting, because I always think there should be a book that tells you how to do it. And that you should always you go in and you're like, okay, if I follow these steps or these rules or this checklist, that everything will be just fine. And it isn't actually the way that works in the real world.
Well, because every situation is different and everybody has their different personalities and experiences. So yeah, to be prepared for all of those, it can be difficult. But yes, I think just as much kind of preparation, lean in, and do the best that you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Tara, what is the thing you are most proud of?
Well, I have listened to your podcasts, and I know that many people tell them stories about their children on that question, but I do not have any children. I could talk about me being a dog mom.
I love that.
Which I do love my little dog, but it's super, super important. But I would say what I'm most proud of would be some of the long-standing relationships that I've had with the people that I've worked with, from team members that have reported into me, from team members that I've collaborated with, to other leadership, and where I've just been able to just maintain those relationships, and where they are friends, but where maybe I do want to pick their brain on something else, or just catch up with them. So I'm really proud of having those just long-standing relationships, because it's at the end of the day, it isn't about just the ROI on that campaign, but it's what you're doing for other people and the mark you can make there. So I'm they're very proud to call many of my former either leadership colleagues or clients even, to call them my friends.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's what the answer boils down to with most of this question is the relationships, the people. That's why we do what we do every day. And it's so, so important to look back and say, you know what, I've got good people in my life, and I'm so proud of those relationships. I love that, Tara. That was a great answer. Thank you.
Again, thank you.
Any advice for a young lady who's kind of just starting down the path you're already so far down and so successful at? Is there anything you would tell her so that she could be successful like you?
Well, I think it really harkens on to some of the things that I've already said. Is one, find a mentor that can help guide you. Find somebody that you look up to and reach out. And I think you'll be surprised. Yeah, buy them a cup of coffee and see if they'll, just talk and build on that relationship there. And I think that ensure that you continue to prepare yourself every day for what's kind of around the corner, what you can make sure that you're best delivering on. Prepare to be well spoken on your delivery of what's when you're talking to leadership or your key stakeholders, and that's going to give you the confidence to be able to kind of battle anything. So I think that those are kind of boils down to some of the things that I had said. So I think that at least those are things that had I stepped back 25 years ago, and maybe those are the things that I would have made sure, put this on your bulletin board and make sure that you do these things and reinforce. That probably would have been my message to myself. So that's where I think certainly would have helped me. So hope maybe that helps others.
Yeah, I love that. And I like the idea of deliberately looking for those opportunities to find people who are doing what you want to do, or maybe a little bit further down the path, and taking the time to. That's another way of investing in yourself. And I love how you kind of brought that full circle. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time today, Tara, and taking the effort and the time to just share your journey with us. If I have a young lady who wants to reach out and ask questions, how does she get a hold of you?
Yes. I'd say probably best to just send me a note to reference this on LinkedIn. So Tara Beiser is, you can look me up, Beiser, on LinkedIn, and send me a note that way is probably the best way. Maybe reference that you saw it here. And I'm always really quick to respond to those, to any messages there.
Perfect. So just put that you heard you on the Fearless Females podcast. So thank you so much. Tara, I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love this conversation.